WealthSouth is our presenting sponsor for the Policy Luncheon series this year. WealthSouth has been a great corporate partner to us and is very involved in many of the other community efforts as well. We're also pleased that they have stepped up to be that presenting sponsors. So now I'd like to invite Senior Vice President, Market Director Bill Howell to the podium to provide sponsor remarks. Thank you, Bill.
Good afternoon, everybody. At WealthSouth, we believe that well-crafted public policy is a key driver of economic opportunity, which in turn advances our Commonwealth. Just a little bit about us. WealthSouth is a division of Farmers National Bank, specializing in wealth management and commercial lending. We have offices not only in Lexington, but Danville, Bowling Green, and recently Evansville, Indiana. For the past 146 years, and that's 1879 if anybody's wanting to do the math. Farmers National Bank has served the agricultural community with financial services and by sponsoring numerous events, including livestock sales and educational sessions for farmers and students of Central Kentucky, including Garrett County, which is the home of our distinguished speaker, Commissioner Shell. So thanks again to Commerce Lexington for hosting this event, and we look forward to a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, WealthSouth. Think about this. Agriculture is a key sector for the Greater Lexington region and Lexington, Fayette County. Thousands of acres of horse farms, row crops, world-class venues, such as Keeneland, the Bluegrass Stockyards, and the Kentucky Horse Park, and many horse-related national headquarters, including the United States Equestrian Federation, reside within Lexington. The American Horse Council's 2017 Economic Impact Study of the horse industry calculated that the industry has over $6 billion in economic impact on Kentucky and generated $60,494 direct dollars, indirect, and induced jobs. Let me do that again. $60,494 direct, indirect, and induced jobs. There we go. Just last month, Keeneland's 2025 September yearling sale cemented its place in history at the highest grossing thoroughbred auction ever held worldwide, with sales topping $531 million. Incredible. Greater Lex is also home to world-renowned equine hospitals and bourbon distilleries, sourcing and manufacturing Kentucky's signature beverage locally. Agricultural education, it's a key component of the Greater Lexington region with two land-grant universities, the University of Kentucky and Kentucky State University. I want to also note that the work of the FFA programs focused on leadership development and Locust Trace Agri-Science Center, which offers students world-class agricultural education. We live in the most incredible community in the region. Agriculture has played a major role in my life and career. Many people think that I'm from the urban sector. I was born and raised on a corn and soybean farm in central Illinois. My sister and I own that 165-plus-year-old farm. We're farmers. I worked for Ronald Reagan, his Secretary of Agriculture, John Block. FFA changed my life. I would not be here without that program. You may think that that's our esteemed speaker's Case IH. That's our farm back in Illinois. That was 2 weeks ago where we were farming. And they're getting ready to go load the semis to go in. And we'll maybe talk a little bit about, we don't have any place to put our corn anymore because we have a hard time getting people to buy it, which is another issue. My family was the largest Alice Chalmers dealership in Illinois. Now, they don't make ACs anymore. And to my board chair, I really don't play with that in the office. I have it out there on my shelf. So when people see it, they know that's important. But AGCO is now the owner of AC. But again, that was part of my upbringing. Also, I'm not going to embarrass myself and try to put this on because I can't even get my hand in the sleeve. And that's no kidding. But I was national officer from Illinois, and you know how I got that role? Commissioner, the chair of the committee was from Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and he remembered me, and he kept his eye on me, and he kept saying he'd make a pretty good national officer. I have so many connections back into Kentucky, it's scary. And maybe the greatest honor since I've been here has been getting the honorary chapter FFA degree, Locust Trace. I have that in a very prized spot in my office, and I have people who comment on that a lot because you all have collectively, with the state officers that are sitting over here, you all have made a name for agriculture and FFA nationally. The FFA convention is coming up in a couple weeks, and you also have, Kentucky has a national FFA officer. I could go on and on and on. Agriculture is huge all the way around. I would say this, we're fortunate to have the Commissioner of Agriculture that we have. Just like last night when I saw him, he's the best cheerleader, but he also knows his stuff. He's one of the best promoters of what we have statewide, and he's a great leader nationally. Jonathan Schell was elected Kentucky's Agriculture Commissioner on November 7th, 2023. A fifth-generation farmer, he alongside with his dad, Gary, owns and operates shell farms and greenhouses in Garrett County, where they raise cattle, grow flowers, corn, and pumpkins. I hear you have a record-setting pumpkin. Is that okay? You do as of now. Prior to being elected Agriculture Commissioner, Schell was elected to the Kentucky House of Representatives in 2012, becoming the youngest member of the General Assembly. In 2017, Schell's colleagues elected him Kentucky's first Republican House Majority Floor Leader. During his time with the House of Representatives, Schell developed and executed legislative strategies to pass policies into law that focus on job creation, support for farmers, and cracking down on opioid traffickers. And I could go on. We're honored to have you. Please help me welcome our Commissioner of Agriculture, Jonathan Schell.
Bob, if you will, Bob doesn't know I'm doing this, but we learned a couple of years ago, it was kind of a surprise to most of us in FFA here in Kentucky that we had a national officer that was working here and doing the big stuff that Bob has done here in Kentucky and in Lexington in this general area. And Nick Carter and others, they were part of FFA and so many other people that we have. We're just so excited about it that, that's a big deal. I don't know if you all understand how big of a deal it is to be a national officer for FFA. It is one of the most competitive things in the entire country to be able to get. It's as hard as running for president. It's incredible. And Bob was able to be one of those national officers. And so I don't know if he has ever been this before. I'm an honorary commissioner, but we're going to make Bob an honorary ag commissioner today. You can hang that in the office right beside your honorary degree too. You'll just be honorary everything.
I like that. Thank you very much. It'll be on my wall in a very prominent place.
For all your work. Thank you, sir. As Bob was saying, we're here in Fayette County and Lexington area, and I just live about 30 miles south of here in Lancaster, Kentucky. And we farm there. We've got cattle operation, greenhouses, pumpkins, etc. Has anybody ever bought anything from a Sunshine Grow Shop in here in Lexington? What about King's Gardens, Louis Flower Power? You bought my flowers before. We wholesale into the Lexington market and many of those businesses in other areas. And that's probably one of my favorite parts of what we do on our farm is the retail business side of it, the wholesale business side of being able to get out amongst our people. And the greenhouse business is something that was kind of new to us. We were always production ag, we were always corn, tobacco, cattle. And about 30 years ago, we got in the greenhouse business, and I learned And in the greenhouse business, I have some favorite things that I like about it. And one of those is whenever people like you all come out and you come to our greenhouses, you buy these pretty flowers, and you all take them home, you're working with them, you're watering them, you are doing everything appropriately to take care of these things. You're going to church, you're bragging on them, you're going to your coffee groups and you're telling them how great they are and how wonderful a green thumb you have, which we're blooming idiots, not green thumbs on our farm. But then you go on vacation, you forget to water them, and you have to come back and buy them again. That's my favorite part of the greenhouse business, is that repeat customer in the same year. And I see many of you all in here that probably are guilty of that. But we, we've got cattle on our farm. We raise several hundred head of background heifers, and we've got a cow-calf operation. But we also have the pumpkin business, which we've gotten into in the last 5 years, and we also sell pumpkins into that market. So if you have pumpkins on your porch and you bought them from any of those locations, you bought Shell Farms pumpkins. And I hope you enjoy them. I hope they haven't rotted yet. We really try to take care of them pretty good for you on our end so that that doesn't happen. But I have learned a few things in the pumpkin patch. And the one that I've learned the most is that women like pumpkins like they like their men. The uglier the better. Warty, scratched up, nasty looking pumpkin. So I always tell people in the room that for you men in here, there is hope for all of you. There's someone for everyone. But we really do love that environment that agriculture creates, that camaraderie, that community that we build in, to really be able to connect with our community in a way that no other industry really has the opportunity to. And part of that is because we have so many boards and things that we're involved in at the department that gets us community engagement. I want to recognize Linda Rumpke, who's here today. She sits on our Ag Finance Corporation Authority, which I want to brag on a little bit. The reason I talk about Linda is so I can brag on the program. Linda is amazing. She does an amazing job on there, really focuses on what's best for our farms, what's best for our communities, and how do we have that outreach. But we have a $180 million bank at the Department of Agriculture. It's a small community bank, basically, that we operate. And it's a participating revolving loan fund. And so there's many bankers in this room. If you have someone that comes in and they're a new beginning farmer and they want to buy land, let's just say it costs $1.25 million that they're going to do. You loan them $1 million, we loan them $250,000 at 2.75% interest. And so that blended rate makes it to where that we can actually do something with that on the farm. And we actually have lowered our average age of farmer as opposed to the rest of the nation because of programs like this that we're operating in. And I don't think anybody in this room thinks we need less farmland, right? I mean, we need our farmers, we need our food to be grown. And so opportunities like that are extremely important with programs that we have. We just had our kind of brainstorming meeting this past Friday, and Daniel, you'll be happy to know that locust trace was talked about quite a bit. And that's something I want to make sure that you all understand in this room, what you have in locust trace. It's remarkable what's been put together there. But the thing that we brought up was around our shows and fairs. I don't know if any of your kids in here do any of the lambs and goats and that kind of stuff at the state fair, but what locust trace is able to do is they're able to board and house animals for kids that don't have property to be able to do that. When you think about here in the Fayette County area, it'd probably be pretty hard to find a place to be able to put cattle, lambs, goats in a subdivision, right? And so if you're working on trying to do that, you're getting an ag education and you want to work with animals and take them and show them and that kind of thing, Daniel and Locust Trace has given an opportunity to these kids that's not apparent in many other counties in this state. And so I just want to say thank you, Daniel, and to Locust Trace for the meaningful work that you all do. That's just one thing. They do so many other things out there, giving these kids an agriculture pathway to the workforce. And it's truly remarkable. We do have many of those blue and gold jackets over there, and I absolutely love FFA. It is my favorite thing in the world. There's no better organization that instills leadership than in those kids. But I will say that as much as I love FFA, politicians are becoming celebrities. Have you all seen this? Like, they're on the news all the time. They're on social media. Like, it's a weird world today that we live in, that politicians are now celebrities. But I want you all to know that I, too, am a celebrity. And it is with a very specific demographic, usually around 14 to 19-year-olds in high school FFAs. And so this past year here in Lexington, their state convention was here in June. And I get up and I give this heartfelt speech trying to connect with these kids. And it was a love letter to the FFA about all the work that we've done through the year and how much I love them and how much I work on it and how much we want to be involved with them. And I was like, man, I've connected. We've done it. So I go down and I sit down, and my executive assistant was sitting there beside me. And I look back and there's this little girl about 16 years old. And she is acting a fool trying to get my attention. And so I looked at her and she went like this. And you can imagine if you were me and you saw that, what would you think? She's wanting your autograph. So I was like, man, I am a big deal. So I said, all right, sweetheart, come up here. So she got up, walked around, and the whole program was still going on. And she leans up to me, and I said, "Where do you want me to sign?" She said, "No, sir, can I borrow your pen?" So there are also humbling moments as a celebrity in politics today. But we work really hard to try and give a future to these kids that they deserve, you know, in communities all across the state of Kentucky. And if you're frustrated with how things are going on the news or social media and you're looking at all this crap, shut it off. Quit watching it. Quit scrolling. Go to one of these local FFAs or local 4-H chapters across the state. You're going to see some remarkable kids doing some remarkable things. If you're looking for something to believe in this next generation, right back there in those blue and gold jackets is exactly where it's at. And so I just want to say thank you to Locust Trace and everything that you all made in this community. And I want you all to know that the investment that you've made in that, from the school system and from the community, from the mayor, from here, that it is working and you all are creating leaders of tomorrow there at that facility. Next thing I want to talk about is my involvement with CASA, so Court-Appointed Special Advocates. Many of you all in here know that. Some of you all may even be volunteers in that. Some of you may be board members or past board members with me. But I am on the CASA Board of Lexington, which services about 9 counties. And I want to say how grateful I am to Mayor Gordon and the City Council for the historic investment that you all made in your budget this last year to help kids here in this general area in Fayette County. I get to watch those dollars be used to the fullest extent possible. And the impact that it makes in a child's life who is in a terrible situation. We're talking about foster care, we're talking about abuse, neglect, some of the worst situations that are out there, but also situations that may not be as bad as you think. You know, just as simple as having a volunteer that's connecting with a child that needs glasses. And their teachers don't have time to find that out, their social workers work to death, and they're not able to really have that conversation to find that out. They find that they've gotten F's and D's in class, and through the conversation they're able to send them to a doctor to see the doctor to get their glasses, and when they get their glasses they become A students. This is because they just couldn't see. And so having a volunteer that's there, meet with them every 30 days to ensure that that child has a connection through the process is extremely important. And Mayor, I can't thank you enough for the investment that you and the City Council have made in the CASA organization for what we're doing. The reason it's so near and dear to me is I've got 2 adoptive children. I've got 4 kids. My oldest and youngest are adopted. And my oldest son was severely neglected in his life whenever he was first growing up. We got him at 15 months old, and the difference that it would have made to have had a CASA in his life and others, and it's because of investments of many of you all in this room that participate in the Bourbon and the Bayou, that participate in our superhero run, that participate in other things, is really why we're able to make a difference in these kids' lives. The connection that is really cool right now, though, is because as Commissioner of Agriculture, we actually employ Miss Kentucky. And Miss Kentucky has been in foster care since she was 5 years old. And she's now on the board of Lincoln Trail CASA. And so it's got the 2 worlds that I love the most. If there was a commissioner of adoption and foster care, that's what I would have ran for instead of ag commissioner. Vulnerable kids are my big passion in my life. It's just hard to see what some of these kids and families have to go through. And I would just make one pitch to you all, that if you have time and you want to make a difference, it's hard to make a difference in your life sometimes. We feel like, am I making a difference in what I'm doing with my job? Am I making a difference in what I'm doing with my volunteerism? I can guarantee you that if you sign up to be a volunteer through the CASA of Lexington, that you will absolutely make a difference. And they don't need superheroes, they don't need baseball players, they don't need UK basketball players, they don't need superstars in their life. They just need someone to show up for them to be involved. And it will make the biggest difference that you can. And the plea that I would make in here is to you men specifically. We have a shortage of men involved as volunteers. And there are amazing work that you can do as a man volunteering in the organization to really make a difference for these kids. And so I would just encourage you that if you're looking for a place to really hang your hat and make a difference in Kentucky for the future and for a child's life, I know where you can do that, and that's with CASA of Lexington. See me afterwards, and I'd love to talk to you about it. Moving on into what I came to talk about, though. I just really appreciate the opportunity that you all have given me to be the Commissioner of Agriculture. And Bob, the last time I gave a talk to a group and we went through everything we're working on, I got through half of it and it was 3 hours long. So ring a bell, I don't want to talk that long. But I just want to touch on a few things that I think are really incredible that we're working on right now because of the amazing people that we have working at the Department of Agriculture. And I want to start with our food as medicine, our nutrition as an agenda, this MAHA movement on the national level and what we're working on right here in Kentucky. I'm actually testifying in front of the MAHA Commission about our work at 3 o'clock today in Frankfurt in front of the committee. But The basic gist of what we're doing is we have a partnership with our hospital association in the state of Kentucky. We've now onboarded about 40 hospitals that are looking at 3 areas of interest. How do we get fresher food in the cafeterias of the hospital? Because normally in any community a hospital sits, they're the largest food consumer in that community. And so the consumption power and the impact that they have is immense whenever we think about rural prosperity and prosperity in agriculture. Second thing is ready-to-eat vending, that grab-and-go type of food that you can get whenever you're there and vending opportunities in your hospitals. But then the real impact that we need to look at is how do we work on post-patient care and medically tailored meals, chronic illness that we have in our country and in our people in Kentucky. And we can fix that through agriculture. We've seen study after study, clinical trial after clinical trial to be able to show that with the right diet, the right food, the right investment, that you can get healthy and not have to take pills for the rest of your life on the back end of it. That investment on the front end pays dividends on the back end. And what that also does is creates that rural prosperity, that connection between your farmer and your community to really make a difference in what we're doing now. So we've been working through this process. We've onboarded 40 hospitals. We're working with our national and our state health cabinets to see how can we mold policy around Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, and private insurance to really make a difference in how this works. We're talking to our chambers of commerce across the state of Kentucky and the state about how do we connect our businesses to do the same thing on the private investment side, of getting more CSAs, those subscription services, and farmers markets on sites and those types of things for our businesses to really be able to engage in this process as a recruitment, retention, and a health benefit for our people in this state, and really work on how do we create extreme value for the producers that are in Kentucky to get rid of their product. Second one that we're working on is around school nutrition. There's about 650,000 school students in the state of Kentucky in public schools. They feed about 174 million meals. On average, 4% or less is what is locally produced protein or vegetables that come into our schools. Nationally, in America, 2/3 of what we consume as fruits and vegetables come from outside of America into our country. We can do better. We want to do better. In all the discussions we've had with school boards, with superintendents, with our cabinet for education, everybody wants to do more. Everybody wants to do better. And so we've been working with them to figure out what are the barriers around procurement, what are the barriers around sourcing, what are the barriers around productivity and pricing. One of the neat things that we just had a meeting on yesterday was with a consulting company to put together a potential platform with AI that's able to put in all the metrics and data over a period of time of how much food has been purchased by an individual school, and they can do a predictive model for the next year so that we can start working on forward contracting for our farmers. So when you think about a school and they look at 60% of the respondents that we had after our federal grant was over of why didn't we continue the program was around pricing. The perception of buying local is more expensive. I don't believe that fallacy. I believe that the problem is a connection issue, a supply issue. Whenever we call and we do a spot market, and they're wanting 10 bushels of tomatoes and their farmer's market's open, they get retail pricing at the farmer's market. They're not going to sell for a wholesale price to a school just to get rid of that extra profitability. But if we back up a year and we say we need 1,000 bushels of tomato for the year, that farmer can plan on that and give appropriate contracted pricing in order to make it comparable to where we are today. And so we're working through these opportunities to really engage with our schools, to really engage with our communities and our farmers to make those connections happen in a real way, that we have a programmatic, systematic opportunity for prosperity on our farms. Many of the other things that we're working on around our schools are around ag education. We had 87% participation in this last September with a program that myself, Lieutenant Governor and Commissioner of Education Robbie Fletcher put together on All In for Ag. So we're taking ag into the classroom in a way that we've never done before. We're leading the nation right now after doing this twice, once in March and once in September, around elementary ag education. Teaching kids not only where their food comes from, identification of farm animals, but how that applies in relevancy to their life. So in here, there's probably several builders. I didn't really care about geometry and math whenever I was in school. I'd sit there and I'd do the formulas and I'd get the grades, but I had no idea why it was relevant to me until my dad built a barn on the farm. And I saw him lay out the blueprints, I saw him do the equations, I saw the math work. It became relevant in my life. That learning became vibrant to me. And what we're able to do is connect our kids in the classroom with that vibrant, relevant learning of the formulas, the math, the science, the things that they're working on in these elementary schools. In Georgia, they did a test plot with 18 elementary schools and saw that their test scores in math went up 30% because of the work that they did around ag and elementary education. It's been remarkable to see these teachers teach in the classroom. I want to give you one example out of Red Cross Elementary from this past September. We went in and the classroom looked like Bill Nye the Science Guy. It was crazy. Had 3D printers everywhere, had all this stuff that they had created. Scott Johnson, elementary school teacher of the year, had been teaching these kids since they were in kindergarten for the last 5 years CAD. They could take the program home, they could create whatever they wanted, they could come back, and they could get it printed. Unlimited amounts of it. Cost the district $1,500 in the corn PLA, so it was made with corn plastic. They're 3D printing this stuff. After we left the next week, there was an announcement they put on Facebook, and I started getting flooded with these things. The teacher had a kid in the class that didn't have a hand. They made a prosthetic in their classroom built by these kids on the 3D printer for that kid with corn plastic. Truly remarkable. The accelerated learning experience that our kids are getting today in the classroom, you wouldn't recognize it. Unless you've been in one here lately, I didn't recognize it. Even in our FFA chapters, whenever we visit around and we see how they're merging standardized curriculum with ag education in our high schools, North Hopkins, Madisonville built a container shipment unit that is now a hospital in Liberia. And they did that in our ag class. Truly remarkable things that are happening in education in Kentucky in our classrooms today. I want to say also how excited we are about what happened at Keeneland back in the Keeneland sales. This record number that's out there is truly amazing work that Keeneland and everybody put together for our ag industry. It's going to pay dividends into the future, and having that available right here in Lexington, in the horse capital of the world, is truly what we need to be focused on. And how we can help with the department, you tell me. We want to be more involved. We work with Chauncey, we work with others every single day in order to push our thoroughbred industry forward. We want to do more as much as we possibly can. One area that we do lack is in our grants and our finance that we have at Ag Development. We don't have as many horse applications come in. So if you all have people that are looking at neat projects that can move the industry forward with large impact, Linda, we'd love to see them, wouldn't we?
We would.
And so I just want to also recognize about our FFA, before I get into what I think most of you all are seeing in the news and talk about trade and the state of the farm economy, is our state FFA officers that are over here, Michaela Fields, Dawson Hall, and Matthew Estes. They're some amazing young adults that are doing some amazing things in this state. I get to be with them almost every single day, but they're really working hard for you all to promote agriculture across the state, and they're from a variety of places. But you all should be most proud of, right here in Fayette County, of one of your own being a national officer right now in Caroline Grove. She is doing so good. I love Caroline. She is absolutely one of my favorite people in the entire world. She's going to be giving her farewell address October 30th in Indianapolis at the National FFA Convention. And me and a couple of our staff are going to go up and kind of see her off. And I have to chaperone my kids' FFA while I'm up there, so pray for me. But it's going to be great. And I just really appreciate it. I can't tell you how much I want to encourage you all to go visit this FFA that you have at Locust Trace or in your community if you're not from here in Fayette County and see the remarkable work that they're doing. But on the farm economy and where we sit today, we've had a lot of conversations around where federal policy is, what state policy is looking like, the direction of where we're going. Depending on what commodity group that you're in farming right now, depends on whether or not you're happy or mad, or might be happy or might be mad. In our grain economies right now, we're struggling. We have had 4 years of depressed marketplaces in our corn and soybean and our wheat. And I just want to make it very clear that what we see on the news a lot of times, as you all know, is not trusted sources. It's more for shock and awe and getting people mad and going through the process of trying to get in your corner on political activities. You know, I'm on this side, you're on this side. And our farmers don't do that. We're very nonpartisan when it comes to what we do in agriculture and how we operate and what we do. I tell people all the time that when people come to buy flowers at my house, I don't ask them if they're Democrat or Republican. We sell them flowers. We want to love on our community. We work with all sides, and we try to create partnerships. But what we have seen over the last couple of years is that we have had a depressed marketplace that has come out of where we are in our grain markets. We have about 2 billion more bushels of corn on the market than what we can get rid of right now. And so what we're looking at is how can we increase policy opportunities on the federal level to consume those products. It's a supply and demand issue that we're facing today, that we have to consume more of this product or we have to grow less of it, one of the two. And what we look at is how can we consume more of this product to make it more profitable for our farmers to be able to have acres out there that they need to do. So on corn specifically, what we look at is E15 year-round. How can we get this in our fuel tanks more and more opportunities around that to be able to have the marketplace that we need? If they did E15 year-round, which is a conversation that they're working on the federal level right now, that it would consume that 2 billion bushels and we would see the marketplace move. Around soybeans, we're looking at sustainable aviation fuel and alternative uses for those opportunities. I think many of you all probably saw Trump yesterday or today talk about getting rid of used cooking oil from China. That's been an issue that Jeff Harper and I have talked about with Cargill for years. What they're doing is they're selling used palm oil instead of used cooking oil into America. It's not the same, it's toxic, it's all the things that you would imagine China was doing. And they've been flooding the marketplace with this to where that they're not using as much soybean oil in the marketplace in America for those reasons. That is an opportunity that will help in the marketplace if they get rid of that. Whenever they did it in the EU and they just said that they were going to test it, it went down 95% in imports of that oil coming into the EU because they knew that it wouldn't hit the standards. We need to do that here in America as well. What we also have to do is get these trade deals in the right way. We've got to work on it. It's hard enough to do one trade deal, but we've ripped up 193 trade deals across the country in the last year. And what I will say about this in agriculture, your industries may be different, but we have been taking advantage of in agriculture for far too long. For decade after decade, non-monetary tariffs and barriers have been put in place off of evidence-based or science-based fallacies that are out there. As an example, in the EU, we were not able to sell chicken in there because we chlorinated our chicken for food safety reasons. They banned that from happening, and so we weren't able to sell chicken into the EU. We're now working towards getting those things opened back up in these countries so that we can get those opportunities there. Same thing with hormone uses in cattle for Australia. It's a $20 billion market that we have had zero access to for decades upon decades. And so working to rip these trade deals up was not necessarily the wrong thing to do. We needed fair trade as much as we need free trade. And when we're talking about a country like China who is playing in geopolitical opportunities to create wars, fund our enemies and do things like that, buy farmland in America, steal our IP, all those opportunities. We can't give up our sovereignty from America in order to get trade deals done. We need these trade deals, and they're working on them. I've had the opportunity to build relationships with the Trump administration. The first place that Brooke Rollins came, our USDA secretary, after she got sworn in back in January, was right here in Kentucky at the Farm Machinery Show in Louisville. We brought her out, we did a big thing, we had meetings with farmers, we talked about it. I've been in DC twice a month for the last 6 or 8 months, having those conversations with her, with the team, about what the state of the economy looks like. It is not good. We're in a rough spot right now in American agriculture. It's not just about the marketplace in which we're dealing in. And I'll give this example. When you look at corn and soybeans and the prices that we're in, 2 decades ago, these pricing wasn't that bad because input costs were not where they are today. We're looking at input costs being so dramatic and so increased that it's becoming a problem. And I worry that as we see a payment come out likely after the shutdown opens up, they've transferred $14 billion into a fund to be able to do that, that as soon as that comes out, our input markets, everything that we buy from, our fertilizers, our chemicals, our seeds, our implements, you're just going to see increases in it. What we've seen for decades now is record profits on everything that we have to buy and record profits on everything that we have to sell. And right in the middle where we are in farming, we see losses year after year, break-even pricing. And so we've got a lot of work to do in agriculture and a lot of things that we need to focus on. It's almost a perfect storm for where we are, especially around the grain markets. We need to be able to have a fair, open, honest conversation about where the state of the economy is around agriculture to really push these things in the right direction. Last time I was in DC, I was able to have breakfast in the White House. Secretary Rollins, Jameson Greer, the U.S. Trade Representative, and Sean Duffy were there. And as we had that conversation, Secretary Rollins told them, said, look, we got to get this China deal done. When's it coming? And they said, Secretary, we're working on it every single day. We're talking to them. But they want Trump to come out and say they're not bad actors in the economy, they're not bad actors in the world stage, and they're doing the right thing. They want a clean slate in order to get this trade deal done. We can't do that as a country with the way things are right now. And so I'm hopeful that as he works on these things and he works through these conversations and they look to having these conversations, I think he's going over there in another 3 weeks to really sit down and talk about the state of the soybean and farm economy specifically, that we're able to see a resolution to this to where our farmers can see some relief in the marketplace. There's not a farmer that I've talked to that wants to get a mailbox check. Every farmer that I know wants a marketplace open. And that's what we're doing in the state of Kentucky to try and work on this, whether it is increasing opportunities around economic development, attracting processors, further processors here, working with national stages to get policy right so that we can capitalize on the things that we need, or whether it's giving commentary to try and get these trade organizations and trade deals done on the national level. And so we try every single day to move the needle forward, especially around our grain markets. If you're in cattle, you're pretty good. If you're in the other livestock, if you're in specialty crops, things are good. But I'll tell you, the 1,000 cattle that I used to have on my farm, I got 500 now because it costs the same amount to put 500 out as it did 1,000 5 years ago. The input, the inflation, everything is choking down on the American farmer. And we have got to do something about it, and we are working on it at the Department of Ag every single day. I want to close by saying what we are focused on right now as we're talking about narratives is when you think about agriculture and farming, 99% of all production agriculture happens in our counties, in rural areas. But when we think about how we get our products to market, how we buy the things that we buy, I would say 80% is a conservative number and that happens inside the cities and our urban areas in the state of Kentucky. When you think about where our river ports are located, where our processors are located, where our restaurants are located, our schools, our hospitals, our consumers, all the retailers that we buy from, all the people that we sell to are located inside of a city limit somewhere. And so we're working with J.D. Cheney at the Kentucky League of Cities and Kentucky Farm Bureau to start the conversation around how do we merge these worlds together to have more meaningful conversations around policy and opportunities to really create the environment that we need to thrive, not only for our cities, for the expansion, the opportunities around economic development, but also for the protection that we need in agriculture and access to marketplaces that will really. And I just want to say a special thank you to Lexington and the Fayette County area for the Kentucky Proud membership, for your farmers market that is incredible, and all the other wonderful things that you all do on the local level to really make a difference for Kentucky agriculture. Thank you all so much.
All right, how are you working to encourage the next generation to pursue agriculture as a career path?
Yeah, so we talk to young youth groups all over the state of Kentucky, whether it's in our 4-H or FFA. We're constantly working on our new and beginning farmer programs that we have at the Department of Agriculture through Ag Development and others, and working closely with our commodity groups throughout the state of Kentucky. I'll give you an example. If you're a farmer and young and beginning farmer trying to come in, it's really hard to try and buy 1,000 acres, put cattle on it. But getting 100 or 200 acres to be able to do a confinement barn operation where that you're feeding or calving out cattle in a smaller area with larger numbers is something that a younger farmer can do to be able to get that happening. One of the things that I will say is that in our economy as a whole, 25 years ago, whenever we started ag development, poultry was 5% of the pie of $3.1 billion in cash receipts in agriculture. So $3.1 billion, 5%. Today, $8.3 billion in cash receipts. Poultry is now 27% of that pie. So when you think about the growth that's happening there, every single month when Linda and I look through these applications for ag finance, it is young farmers, and Bernard, it is young farmers that are coming in 20s and 30 years old that are buying these barns and actually been able to cash flow these operations. And so it's been remarkable to see how we in Kentucky and the programs that we're working on have really bridged the gap for the next generation. And we continue to do more, and we want to do more if anybody has any ideas.
Here's a good question. Why are we importing beef from South America?
You know, we deal in America a more prime cut. We have a higher level of excellence in our production. And so a lot of that imported beef that's coming in is going into very commodity level stuff, more of your more of your fast food, more of your commodity style, lower grade, lower cost. It's something that we constantly want to work on to make it better to where that we don't have to import that much. But that's also around the trade deals and trade things that are going on, that open economy that we have. One of the interesting things is if you've traveled into Mexico, a lot of times the thing that is the worst in the restaurant is beef because they don't get it from us. But we've been working on bridging that gap in a lot of those, what do you call them, where you go on vacation, all-inclusive resorts, to get more American beef in those places to where that you as an American, when you go down, have the same quality that you want to see, and it's not that chewy stuff that you can't really get through. And but we have the highest quality of everything in America. We have the best corn, beans, and wheat. We have the best cattle, poultry, and pork. And that's the reason that a lot of times when you look at a more commodity level pricing in beef or something else, it's coming from another country.
What role can the Kentucky Department of Agriculture play in aiding farmers impacted negatively by trade disputes?
Yeah, so we advocate directly with our federal government every single day on how this is happening. I'll give you an example. Last time I was in D.C. before we had breakfast, we had a meeting at the USDA office, and Secretary Rollins asked us, you know, is it going to be important to get a payment? Where are we at in the farm economy? And she had gotten some advice that said, or she had gotten some commentary from someone else that said, you know, if you're a good farmer, you're going to be okay. If you're a bad farmer, you know, you're probably not doing as good. And that is not true. Just to give you an example, if you're a farmer who's been in the business for 10 years and you've built up a cash reserve, for the last 3 years, you have eaten into that cash reserve. You have not made money, you have eaten into that cash reserve. So if, let's just say your budget was $5 million for your crop, and you had a $3 million reserve going into 3 years ago, you have eaten through that $3 million reserve. So where you were borrowing $2 million to put your crop out, you're now borrowing $4 and $5 million to do that same thing. We're getting ready to have 22 roll off. Any of you bankers in there, as you look at that rolling average on your buying for your money, getting it in, and that year was the best year we have on the books. So we're now getting ready to have 3 bad years that are going to be on there, and so the availability of capital is going to be another issue that farmers are going to be facing moving into our 26. The payment that I expect to be coming after the shutdown will salve some of that wound that we have in the marketplace, but we have to get the markets open back up. We have to find opportunities for more consumption for this to be a long-lasting opportunity, or a long-lasting economy that we're going into.
There was a lot of hope for the hemp industry coming back. What can you share, or can you share your thoughts on the future of hemp as an industry sector in Kentucky?
Yeah, we've got several farmers in the state that are doing some good stuff in the hemp industry. I think it's kind of leveled out where it is. You know, those that are in it are making money. There's some stuff on the federal level that they're looking at working on, and I will say that is an intense fight if you're in the middle of it. But we do have some things that we've got to work on. Because of the 2018 Farm Bill, or 2018 bill that was passed that gave framework, but the FDA didn't do anything with the framework. And so CBD and THC gummies that you're buying in the gas stations or you're seeing other places that are out there, the packaging looks like Skittles, it looks like Doritos, it looks like other things. They're also using acid to increase the toxicity of the THC, or the THC that's currently in those products artificially. And so we've got to do something on whether the state level or on the federal level to get rid of the enhanced THC, chemically altered THC that's in these products, and then also look at a packaging labeling standard that doesn't allow them to market towards kids, because it's not necessarily the kids are coming in. We've had a 43% increase in ER visits in the state of Kentucky on THC consumption of gummies and candies that are out there. And it's not 18-year-olds going in and buying it, it's not 17-year-olds. These are 6 and 7-year-olds that are in the ER because of this. It's because of parents or someone else going and buying it, having it at the house, laying it around, looks like Skittles, tastes like Skittles, they consume it, they get sick, they go to the ER. So there's some things that we've got to do in it, but there are opportunities in the hemp industry right now.
What are your priorities for the 26th session of the Kentucky General Assembly?
So we're putting that together. One of the big things for legislators that are in here that we're looking at is increasing our retention dollars for our employees at the Department of Agriculture, getting them to a standard where that they're not being stole by other agencies. And so really, that's our big budget ask that we're looking for, is to maintain the employees that we have and really treat them the right way. We've got great employees at the Department of Ag. We have a culture of innovation, success, and gratitude, and showing them the gratitude for the work that they're doing is, to me, one of the most important things, and making sure that they have a living wage that they can work on and be comfortable in their job instead of, you know, another agency stealing them and going other places. Of the people that we have leave the department, it is not because of the environment or their job, it's usually because of money, and they can go somewhere else in state government and make more in the same job. And so we're trying to get that up. The other one is going to be around our economic development. We have $5 million in our economic development fund that we work with the Economic Development Cabinet on. We're going to try and get that to 10, 2 more 5-year or $5 million increases, so that we can really work on attracting and retaining businesses around agriculture, specifically high impact processing and further processing opportunities. And we will have a legislative agenda around our food as medicine and our school nutrition as well.
How is immigration policy affecting input costs for farmers?
It's huge. We actually just had a positive change, I think, in the agriculture community. Increases in wage labor, adverse wage labor, has been an issue for farming for a very long time. And the Trump administration just put out policy realigning how they observe the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And the H-2A on level 1 scale went from $15.80 down to $12.80, which is going to be a $3 relief in the state of Kentucky on wages that are coming in on new contracts, not current contracts, but new contracts. There'll be a slight increase on level 2 skills, which will increase by about $1. That's more of your CDL truck drivers, some of those kind of specialties that are coming in. But the big thing that we deal with almost every year is around housing. The houses that you all live in today most likely would not qualify for H-2A housing, because there would be something wrong. You don't have a lid on your trash can. You may have a hole in your screen door. You may have cattle within 100 feet of your house. You may have livestock of some kind. The requirements and rigidity of the laws around housing, specifically for H-2A, needs to have some flexibility in it and some common sense. And so we're looking at potentially also adding a farm labor advocate, whether it be in the labor cabinet or in my department, so that we can help join those things together to bring common sense to it. Nobody wants to mistreat their workers, but we do need relief.
Will you be around to answer other questions that folks may have?
Yeah, but now I've got to be in Frankfurt at 3 for that committee, so I don't know when.
Okay. And here, the last question, talking about the dangers of farmland being bought out by the Chinese interests.
Yeah, so what happens is, the biggest thing is around our military bases. That is the number one thing that we've got to protect. And it's not just that they're buying up farmland, but the ownership of IP, stealing our intellectual property, getting involved in chemical opportunities, and buying the farmland. When someone else controls the land that we have here in America, it's a problem. And what we need to do is make sure that American farmers have opportunities to have American farmland, to produce American goods for American people. And when China comes into the deal, it's these back doors that they're getting into national security and other stuff whenever they're here doing this. And it's a problem. And if you don't know this, in China, if you have a business there, they have to own 50% of that business. And it's the state that does that. And so having Chinese-owned opportunity here means that the Chinese government is owning that as well, at least 50% of it. And so when we think about the adversarial nature of where we are today, geopolitically across the country and across the world, we've got to protect ourselves and the sovereignty of our country. So I'm not an expert in it, but I can tell you the people that I've talked to about it, it is a huge concern that we need to focus on, and we need to make sure that we're doing the right thing with it.
I think we have time for another here. Could you please touch on the Bluegrass Ag Tech Initiative with LFUCG and how Lexington is helping to advance ag across the state?
Yeah, so we have, is Jacob here? I thought I saw Jacob, he may have to leave. But we have a new executive director of Bluegrass Ag Tech.
You got a good one.
Yeah, we are a part funder. LFCG is part funder, and then Alltech is a part funder of that. And what it is it's focusing on high-tech, ag-tech, innovative businesses and jobs that are out there. We just had a really neat meeting with Jacob in my office talking about the future of the program and kind of some of the things that we would like to see them working on and some of the direction that we want to go. And I think AI, robotics, sensors, that kind of stuff is really some of the things that we want to see. As I was saying earlier with the consultant that we're working with, being able to plug that data into an AI and have it pop back out for a year's worth of what can be consumed and per school and per commodity that we're looking at, I mean, that would have took an intern 2 years to do. I mean, you're talking 400,000 units of data that would be coming in. So it's pretty incredible the opportunities that we have, and Bluegrass Ag Tech is a good partner with it.
Let's give our commissioner a round of applause. So I know there's a couple of questions and there's probably a few more, and we'll get as much of this time as we can, but thank you very much. Very insightful, and stay tuned for more to come.